Chairman and Committee, my name is Doug Peterson. I'm president of the Minnesota Farmers Union. I'll try to be as brief as possible. I know your time is important. We have long supported, Minnesota Farmers Union has supported the environmental review process as our policy developed by our neighbors. And we support the citizens' ability to petition environmental review of proposed feedlots. We oppose any weakening or further weakening of environmental review, and any change to the permitting process must maintain environmental standards. Public debate is not necessarily so much fun on controversial issues in rural areas, whether it's feedlots or mines or gravel pits or wind. Minnesota citizens face those issues with the ability to have and answer questions through the Citizens Board, and we live in a state where water is the #1 resource. Farmers Union policy has and always supported strong local control and the citizens' right to use government closest to the project ability to have the input. Our policy supports the PCA Citizens Board as well and opposes making changes to it. This provides local citizens with more information about questions that they ask and the ability to ask those questions. Specifically, as to feedlots, Minnesota Farmers Union supports the current process and opposes the attempt to change it. I believe, and we believe as an organization, that Minnesota livestock industry is doing well. We're #1 in turkeys. This summer we passed North Carolina and #2 in hog productions this month. Cattle and calves on feed for slaughter, a market for Minnesota for all feedlots with a capacity of greater than 1,000 head, totaled 137,000 head in January of 15, according to the USDA, the National Ag Statistics Service, Minnesota Field Office. And this is up 2,000 head from last month and up 7,000 head from the month before. I served in the legislature 12 years and worked on environmental review laws and issues. I served on ag policy, environment finance, environment ag finance, and environment policy. It is my firm belief that citizens have a right to petition and question projects, and that projects must have transparency in the legislative and the rulemaking process. I don't know how many of you have had the opportunity to ever call the duty officer, or if you understand that when I was in the legislature, we had a hotline to the duty officer. I was called by one of my constituents, and we live, my Lac-Qui-Parle district where I live is right on the border close to South Dakota. The call from the constituent was that the freeboard on the dairy in Big Stone City, South Dakota had broken, and that was a 1,200-gallon dairy, and it was coming down the Yellow Medicine River. I called the duty officer to make sure that the pollution from South Dakota did not come to Minnesota. It was wintertime, and we lucked out on some of that stuff. The other time I called the duty officer was in the '97 blizzards and flooding, and western Minnesota was really rocked at that time. And I can tell you very simply that when I was in the legislature, I did have a few laws that in a living with livestock bill that I had, just to make sure. In that provision, I had in that bill that we should do, the PCA should do a county inventory of all the feedlots and fund it. We did not fund it, and we didn't know where the inventory and how many feedlots we had in 1998. Didn't know. As a matter of fact, when I asked the PCA how many feedlots there were in the country, in committee, in the counties, they did not know. I also grandfathered the existing livestock operations. That didn't pass. I also exempted all cow-calf operations from PCA rule on pasture, because that is so terribly important for our beginning farmers in Minnesota, that cow-calf operation on pastures. My firm belief, and this will be my last comments, the loss of government transparency is a loss of the citizens' right to question and petition its government. I hope you take those things into consideration, and I've always looked forward to talking with you, Mr. Chairman, and the committee on any questions that you may have. Thank you.